Good morning. Welcome to the public board meeting of June 18th, 2025. I will call the meeting to order at 10 o'clock. I'm going to ask Trustee Gibbons to provide us the land acknowledgement this morning.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So first I want to say that I'm coming to you from Kamloops, which is located in the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation, specifically on Kamloops Secwepemc. But I acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional gathering place and traveling route of the Indigenous people of this land. We acknowledge the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Blackfoot, Inuit, and Métis people, and all the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. We are grateful for their stewardship of this land and for the knowledge they have shared. We commit to learning from their history, cultures, and traditions, and to working together towards reconciliation and a better future for all.
Thank you so much, Trustee Gibbons. I'm going to ask Trustee Buga to add a couple of thoughts.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I hadn't prefaced this to anybody. I just wanted to acknowledge that this time of year we're celebrating Indigenous Peoples Month and coming up to the summer solstice where we have celebrations across our school division to really engage all students in understanding and celebrating culture and the history and the future with our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. We're so blessed by our staff members, our community members, our elders, our knowledge keepers, our parents that actually support us in teaching students and staff and walking this together. And this time of year is just really special for all of our schools in that way. So I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge and thank the very many people who donate their time and their knowledge to share with us. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Buga. Moving on to agenda item 3, the approval of the agenda. Anybody? Trustee Murray Elliott, you're approving it or putting the motion forward. Thank you so much. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And item 4, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review? Can I have a motion? Trustee Buga, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. Business arising from the minutes. There is none. So we'll move straight into presentations and delegations. 6.1, Flight Students Sturgeon Composite High School. I will now ask Superintendent Warren to start us off.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to invite Mr. Ken Stansky to talk about the program. In June, our high school students are writing exams, so it's very important they do well on their exams. So we wanted the kids to share their experiences too, but Mr. Stansky is going to share on behalf. We are very excited as a school division because we did get approval for our collegiate, and so it is very exciting. And so it's just great to hear. We've have our kids out at the airport, and they've been doing things. We've had flight going for a while, so we wanted Mr. Stansky to come in and share some of the experiences over the year.
Well, thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it. I did note this morning that the sun did come up in spite of what happened in Florida last night. So indeed, we all need to be happy that indeed the sun will rise and will continue to rise every day in spite of our disappointment last night. So yeah, I appreciate your time, and I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. So I was one of the co-teachers in the Flight 15 program, our inaugural one. And I'd like to share a few thoughts with you, some pictures, and just a brief overview of how our program went. So Mr. Zach Cota was our Centennial partner. He was the pilot that came in and taught the majority of the content, and I ran all the systems for him and filled in whenever I had to. So in our inaugural class, we had 15 students. 19 students, 15 boys, 4 girls. They were a mixture of grade 10, 11, and 12. The vast majority of them being grade 10. So they were 15 or 16. There were 2 grade 12s. Mr. Cota was with us 4 days a week. And then his role was to come in and teach the ground school portion of a PPL, which involved navigation, weather, air law, and a couple other items in there. He also, at the end of the semester, did a very brief session on drones. And so the students had an opportunity to write the government exam for a basic drone license. In addition, there was a small session on radio communication. So in total, the course ran for 5 credits, 3 credits for flight and 2 credits for 2 other modules. We also have a flight sim that was graciously provided by the board, which I appreciate. And I have some photos of the sim as well, in case you're not sure what that looks like. If you have any questions, please stop me. So in the course of our semester, we had organized 3 field trips. We went out to the Villeneuve Airport, we went out to the International Airport, and the Alberta Aviation Museum. So the students were exposed to a variety of different careers within flight besides fixed wing flying. So there was maintenance. We had 2 guest speakers that came out. One talked about rotary flight and rotary maintenance. The other one talked about just flight in general. So those were some of the other things we needed to expose them to. We had a chance to go up to the tower in Villeneuve and talk to the NAV Canada operators, which was nice. It's kind of interesting. It's very deadly quiet up there. So they like it that way. One of the things I was a little surprised about was the degree of casual dress by those. You always think when you're sitting in your airplane, you're coming in, these very fine, capable operators, but they're all like very casually dressed, like in sweats. And it's important they're comfortable. They're very important they're comfortable, but I was expecting a little more formality when it came to them. But anyway, that's just me. The guest speakers were from Centennial Aviation, so Mr. Cota arranged them. So again, gave the students a bit of a sense of what's life to be a helicopter pilot, to be a helicopter maintenance tech, and some of the challenges are revolving around those things. So it was a great course. It was indeed challenging at times. Many of the students were not quite ready for the degree of intensity of a PPL. So there was the nature of the course was mainly Mr. Cota would come in 4 days a week and provide information, slides, lectures, not many discussions. And so there was a lot of material in a very short period of time. And so there was new material every day. They were given slides, so we shared the slides with them. They had access to the information all the time, but it was a lot of material in a very short time span. And I'm not sure that many of them were expecting the degree of intensity that actually what a PPL is all about. It is a collegiate level course. It's not designed for the faint of heart. You need to study, you need to be aware, you need to be paying attention. And there was varying degrees of that throughout the course. We did, as we went through, tweak it a little bit, provide the students with some more supports, including review sheets, quizzes to sort of assist them. Otherwise, when Mr. Cota teaches the course outside of schools, it's 5 exams, a final exam, and that's it. But for our students, that was not going to work. So throughout the course, him and I adjusted it a little bit to try and ensure the success of the students. So I took a few photos along the way. So this was our group when we went to the Aviation Museum. You'll see the students enjoyed the museum. They really enjoyed the classroom that the Aviation Museum had, where they had a series of flight simulators. And so the kids got to spend the last 45 minutes flying. They had a classroom so they could accommodate almost all the kids at once. So they got to pick their aircraft and where they wanted to fly. And so they really enjoyed that part. This is our flight sim. So ours is a little more sophisticated than the one at the Alberta Aviation Museum. So we initially set it up in our Comtech room. We had it moved to my room, so there was a bit more security around it and students would have better access. So it was, yeah, it was fun. Unfortunately, the students didn't get enough time because when they came to class, it was content, content, content. So when some flew at lunch, when they had time as well, based on their other courses. So yeah, it was good. Students seemed to enjoy it. Went out to the international airport and we have a contact with a marketing manager at YEG. And he was able to provide us with a variety of experiences, including getting us on to some cargo planes. And so this is one of the cargo planes we were able to take a look at. We got to go to the fire department and the firemen were very excited to see us. They don't get a lot of visitors. So I didn't put all of the slides in. I understand the time constraints I have, but they were very excited to be able to roll their fire truck out and spray water onto the field, which they did for 3 or 4 minutes just because they could. So they did that and the kids seemed to enjoy it, but that was their big thing. So they showed us their fire trucks. They talked about what they did. And so again, one more sort of career option that the students could consider. We also had a chance to talk to one of the drone providers. So this is a drone that they fly from Leduc to the airport. And this drone can accommodate up to 3 kilograms of weight. And they have the ability to fly this every day to a pharmacy in Leduc. So the students had a chance to see the drones that we flew, which you'll see in a few minutes, were very small. These drones were considerably larger. And so they've been able to show the airport and the various authorities that they can fly this safely. This was quite large, actually. They would have flown for us, but the weather was really bad. It was raining and we were socked in, so they couldn't actually see it go. They got to jump in the fire trucks, which is always a lot of fun. There were 4 of them, and so this was the old yellow one. They were retiring, so the kids were quite anxious to kind of see what that's all about. So towards the end of the course, I charged up all the drones when we finished our content, and the kids had a chance to run into the backyard and fly around. So they were in partners. Yeah, they seemed to really enjoy it, actually. The level of proficiency grew very, very quickly. First day was a bit of an adventure, and after that, they got much better very quickly. We did have to be a little careful, because after looking at various maps, we are right on the very edge of the airspace of the armed forces.
Yeah.
So we needed to make sure we were just outside to ensure there weren't any issues, and there weren't any issues, but yeah. These little drones that were provided by Central Office, which we appreciate, were amazing. The cameras on them were quite astounding. Some of the more creative students flew to the edge of one of the classrooms and was able to sort of peer in at the math teacher, which is what I was not expecting. But needless to say, their skills developed very quickly. So math teacher seemed okay with it. So yeah, again, due to brevity, I just wanted to give you an overview and take any questions you might have about our program, what we did, what we learned. And I am looking forward to meeting with Mr. Cripps and Dan next week. And we're going to sort of consider how we move forward next year, the format, and what it might look like for 2026. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to take one.
Trustee Buga?
Thank you for the presentation. I know this is a busy time of year for everybody. That's fantastic. I love to see the new programs and what they can provide. And I'm personally very disappointed that my son chose not to take it after all, because I think it looks like a fantastic opportunity. My question is, because there were so many grade 10s proportionally in there, and the level of expectation in the class, how was the success rate of the students? What was their feeling on it? Are they satisfied?
I did survey the students. I provided an exit survey to all my classes, and the flight was no different. Many of them expressed their concerns that it was very difficult. It was very intensive. We did tell them. We also met with parents before the semester started. We did try and alert them to the degree of difficulty. They were very challenged at times. So what the flight school did was they have a final exam that parallels the Transport Canada exam. So to get a PPL, you have to have, there's a few things. You have to have a medical. You have to have a minimum of 5 hours in the air with a pilot. You need to complete the ground school, and then you're allowed to write the Transport Canada exam. Once you complete it and pass that exam, then you need to go and get 30 to 50 hours in the air. Once you've done that, then you qualify for a PPL. So not that many of the students in this class will get to that point. Many of them were interested in aviation, found it fun and engaging, but were not at the point where they were ready to commit to a career in aviation. We worked hard to open their eyes to other options besides fixed wing flying, including rotary helicopters and rotary maintenance. But it was a very, very challenging final exam.
Can I follow up?
Yes, please.
Sorry,
Uh,
one quick follow-up. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there opportunity? I think this is a fantastic program. I'm wondering if there's, I'm guessing that's what the conversations will be, of an opportunity to almost expand it into like the 10, 20, 30, so that there's a little slower pace and, you know, breaking that up so that it's a longer term, you know, get to that PPL.
Yeah, that's a possibility as well. With the nature of flying is there's a lot of other certifications that people can take. So your PPL is kind of your very basic steps. From there, you can take instrument ratings, weather ratings, twin engine ratings. There's a whole plethora of other options. But you need to have that PPL first. Without that PPL, you really can't qualify and continue on. So, and it is, if students are prepared to go down this route, they need to recognize it's also very expensive. So to get a private license from scratch is up to about $20,000. And if you're interested in going full commercial and getting in the cockpit of a WestJet plane, it's about $100,000. So that's a lot of money over a lot of time. And ultimately, that's a big commitment financially and career-wise, if that's the route you want to go.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. It is so great to see how these programs, especially new ones, are working out. I love that there was a lot of variety in the program, not, you know, that you expose them to many different facets that they could perhaps look at. I appreciate that you're sharing with us some of the challenges that you faced in the new year, which is expected. Just wondering, so does anyone who applies to take this course, are they accepted, or do you kind of do a screening process to make sure that they can handle the intensity?
That's a great question. So the screening process, so it was our first run. One of the requirements that we learned about when we went down to Medicine Hat is that the student's level of math capability needs to be pretty strong. So we did use Math 10C as one of the screening tools to ensure that they had the appropriate math skills. Because without those math skills, you will absolutely struggle. So that was the main criteria. They needed to have an acceptable grade in Math 10C. Other than that, that was the only screening criteria we used.
Just to follow up, the photo of the group in front of the plane in the museum, was that a DC-3?
I don't think so.
No?
No. You're not gonna. No. Okay. No, I don't think it was a DC-3.
Any questions from online? Joe or Irene? Okay, I just wanted to say I certainly appreciate the diversity in exposure as well. Not everybody's going to be a pilot, but you know, as a resident of Sturgeon County who recently had a fire in her yard and saw all of our high school students in the fire trucks putting the fire out, I appreciate that you're providing the exposure to other career paths. Like, I think that's probably, I'm super happy with the program, but I think that's also probably one of the biggest takeaways from the presentation. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Yes. If you ever have any questions even beyond, I'm an email away. I'd be very pleased to assist you in any way I can or address any questions. Thank you for your time. I very much appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to start moving into action item 7.1, addition of August public board meeting. Superintendent Warren?
Thank you, Chair. And so at the org meeting every year, the board approves the public board meetings for the year. When it is an election year, normally there is no August public board meeting. So just with the amount, this was again coming from the board, but this is up to the board to decide. In order to have an actual public meeting in August, you actually have to approve it because it was not part of the org original approval. And this was just in reflection feedback from the board, just on working through policies and preparing, setting up the new board for success. So again, this was not part of the original org meeting approval of the schedule of public board meetings for the year.
Can I ask for a motion, please? Trustee Bucca?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve adding a public board meeting on August 27th, 2025 with a start time of 1 p.m. to allow for additional time for a committee of the whole meeting beginning at 9 a.m. for policy review. May I speak to?
You may speak to the motion.
Just in acknowledging the background and the changes in legislation, I feel that we don't have much choice. We need to do some updates prior to the September 1st school year as per the province of Alberta and the Education Act. So obviously I will be voting in favor.
Trustee Peckman, would you like an opportunity to speak in favor or against? Trustee Murray Elliott? Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I will be speaking in favor of this motion, considering we also spent some of our time focusing in areas maybe that we shouldn't have spent as much time on and neglected getting to the policies. I think it's important that we complete our work. And I just want to ask do we feel that that's enough time to be able to complete all of these policy reviews, or will we need to meet possibly in July?
And just to clarify this one, yes, you've added in other meetings to work through your policies, but this in particular, the focus would be for policy 115, because that is the one we have to have in place. And so that's why it's targeted on here. Yes, we would hope maybe other policies might be discussed in the CAL before and you might bring them forward, but we really must have with the new legislation that came out from the government, with the changes of the new bills, we have some of them that must be in place for September 1st. So even if, we do know that board policy 115 will need minor change. It's not a big change to that policy. It'll be minor, a couple of the words, but that'll be based on the legislation that just came out. But that one must be ready to go. It must be in place for all students and staff for the beginning of the school year.
I'm going to take a moment to speak in favor of this as well. I think it's important that we get that in place, as well as I just wanted to make a suggestion for future. It used to be that the board would schedule meetings every single month, January through December, and then vote to cancel them. I actually think that's a better method of doing this rather than voting to add meetings. I think we should vote to remove meetings, for example, in July. If we don't need public board or committee of the whole, then we would simply at the June meeting vote to cancel those. But that would be my only thought on this. And I will now, Joe, I'm sorry, I did not ask you. Trustee Dwyer, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no, nothing. I'm good.
Thank you. So then I will call the question that the Board of Trustees approve adding a public board meeting on August 27th, 2025 with a start time of 1 p.m. to allow for additional time for a committee of the whole meeting beginning at 9 a.m. for policy review. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And moving to 7.2 Gibbons School amalgamation, Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I will turn this over to the Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services.
Thank you, Superintendent. So this motion is just kind of in alignment with the community engagement we did in our process to move forward with our capital plan and hopefully get a new school. I just want to highlight that this motion does not change or tie the board's hands in terms of adjusting their capital plan as needed. But it's particularly tied to if we get construction funding. Currently, we are in pre-planning. There's planning and design phases in front of that. So this would only be if we get construction funding. I do believe that this is in the best interest of the community for us to get a new school. Currently, the two schools in the community are quite old and do require a lot of work. And if we do get a new school in the area, we can redirect those funds to maybe some other schools that need them, as well as doing the kind of amalgamation will also allowed us to find some operational efficiencies to hopefully provide better programming for our students. I'll leave it open to any questions.
Questions for clarification from the board? I have a question. I'm just wondering about the age of the two buildings in Gibbons.
1958 for Gibbons and then 1981 for Landing Trails.
Okay. It was my understanding from previous years on the board that Gibbons School is in particularly dire need of attention. At one point, I believe it was going to be, we were considering, or the board at the time had considered, having it condemned. And we've put significant dollars into it since then. Can you speak to the condition of the school at the moment?
Yeah, so most certainly, kind of in our capital plan, we do have for Gibbons School that over the next 5 years, there is about $10 million in deferred maintenance and then 8.5 for Landing Trails. That number has somewhat improved because we have had to do some work over the last couple of years and to support the school recently, roofs have been done. And the roof requires a huge replacement. There was a $300,000 mechanical upgrade that needs to take place. So it's just creating a huge drain on our resources, or limited resources we have available. And we require those resources for a lot of our other schools as well, too.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Trustee Gibbons.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you could explain, I know you've explained this a few times, but to me again and our public, the changes in the stages that Alberta Ed has. It's no longer you have to do everything in all of one before you get your dollars, but you can articulate it better than I.
Yes, so with the School Accelerator program, there used to be very defined timelines about when you would get announcements and how that process would look. With the School Accelerator program, they have shifted that up so that you can get approval sooner and faster. They have introduced some additional phases into the design of a school, which are kind of that pre-planning and planning phase that were previously almost one. So they are trying to provide some more flexibility for us to move forward. So as we complete these items, we can then make updates and hopefully get on the short list to get our school sooner. Yeah.
I have one more question if nobody else does. Originally, the school was intended to be built with the rec center in conjunction and cooperation with the town of Gibbons. Can you maybe update us as to where the town is at the moment?
Yeah, so I think the town still has plans to do that project. However, just with our timelines coming forward and not wanting to miss out on the opportunity presented with the accelerator program, we are looking at kind of additional options of locations and how we could pivot if needed to be to meet the new government timelines. And again, just not miss an opportunity for us to get a new school.
Yeah.
But we are still working very closely with the town to coordinate and do what's best for the community, our students, as well as the town.
Excellent. Thank you. Superintendent Warren?
And just to add, and especially for the public, just to understand that, especially to read the capital plan, to understand this is not, when the government does not approve a capital building based on what the projections of potential population or a town is, and your schools, if they are not over capacity, you need to be right sizing, and you'll notice that both schools, they are like utilization rates are low. And because they have a long history, those two schools, how they have changed over the years. And so you're paying for schools that are unutilized. And so it's actually right sizing. So this is putting two schools into one, but you're actually right sizing. So the capacity of the two schools right now together, it's right there in whatever page 3, I think there, whatever is on the capital plan, that currently the two schools, the capacity is 925 between the two, but actually the new school, the capacity would be 860. And so this does not, we have to work with the now. There is no projection on the future population of an area that we work with the now. So as we work through, again, this could shift a little bit where the location goes, but right now a new school would be really nice to actually move away from some of our deferred maintenance on those two buildings.
Any other questions? Trustee Dwyer, I don't see you, and so I'm assuming you're good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Everybody will have an opportunity to speak for or against the motion. Oh, I need a motion first, then we can speak for or against. Calling for a motion. Thank you, Trustee Pequin.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the Gibbons School amalgamation if the Gibbons and Landing Trail solution is approved for construction as part of the board's 3-year capital plan.
All right, we'll start with Trustee Murray Elliott. Would you like to speak for or against?
Yes, I would. I speak for this motion. It is always exciting to have a new school in the division, especially when we're replacing older schools that need a lot of upkeep and maintenance and input of money. I will just restate my concerns, as everyone has heard multiple times. Hopefully the board and admin will monitor very closely. First of all, the new legislation of Bill 51, which would concern what happens to any school that is no longer being used or land. And the second concern being that because there are potential changes in planning as we go here, I would like us to be very aware that no taxpayer or division funding or dollars is wasted in having to pivot in the middle of something. So just make sure that we have a really good plan before we start throwing money at it. So other than that, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Trustee Pequin, would you like to speak to the motion? Trustee Buga, would you like to speak to the motion? Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak in favor for this motion. Being that we were given the pre-planning dollars from the government, I think it is important that we continue to move forward with this, and that therefore we need the next step, which is following our policy 600 for school closures, as we are moving from right sizing of 2 schools to 1 school, which will then move us forward to getting to a point where we'll be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not draining our resources unnecessarily into a building or buildings that are old, outdated, and expiring.
Trustee Dwyer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'll be voting yes for it. But, in history, Gibbons looking at that recreation facility that we would join the school onto, and I thought that was a great opportunity. But the most important part of this is getting a new school. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I will also speak in favor of the motion. I agree with Trustee Murray Elliott. The board and senior admin need to stay cognizant of things happening in the future that we may not be able to see now. I feel that this is the fiscally responsible move. We have a number of schools in the division that are also in desperate need of maintenance. And I just don't feel that it's fiscally responsible to put more money into two schools this old and with as many repairs as they have. So I'm so grateful to the province and the accelerator program for providing us the opportunity to build a new school in Gibbons. And yeah, I'm in favor. So at this time, I will call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the Gibbons School amalgamation if the Gibbons and Landing Trail solution is approved for construction as part of the board's 3-year capital plan. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 7.3, the 2025-2026 Student Advisory Committee meetings. Superintendent Warren?
Thank you, Chair. I will turn this over to the deputy. This is a memo motion that does come to you every year, and we're setting up our meetings for the upcoming school year.
Thank you. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. We're seeking approval by the Board of Trustees through motion. The dates, we don't have, aside from specifying, we'd like to do it in person. We don't have the schools identified beyond the dates. It's more of a planning forward request from the board. Prepared to take any questions.
Questions for clarification? I would like to call for a motion, please. Trustee Buga?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve that the 2025-2026 Student Advisory Committee meetings take place in a host school on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 in person, and at a different host school on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 in person.
Would anybody like to speak for or speak to the motion? Trustee Buga?
Yeah, I would just like to share my appreciation that we are doing this pre-planning because sometimes it can be a challenge to navigate school schedules across so many schools. And also the commitment being set in place now with an election coming up to ensure that student voice doesn't get lost in the process of an election, because our school board changeovers should not affect our students in any negative way. I'm really happy that this is some continuity that won't change due to any change of people at this table. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I will speak in favor of this motion. I believe I will echo Trustee Buga in that it gives a positive direction for the next board, and it still allows for flexibility if the new board needs to change that date. At least they know that it's there, it's in the calendar. Let's change it instead of, oh, we forgot to do it.
Agreed. Anybody else? Then I will call the question that the Board of Trustees approve that the 2025-2026 Student Advisory Committee meetings take place in a host school on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 in person, and at a different host school on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 in person. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 7.4, combined motion for locally developed course approval. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is a standing memo that comes forward every year to talk about, look at locally developed courses, and I will turn it over to the deputy.
Thank you, Superintendent and Chair. It is an annual, I was going to say report, but it is request for approval through motion by the Board of Trustees, the following 53 locally developed courses. I'd like to remind the board, locally developed courses are courses that have been designed within Alberta at a variety of different school divisions to meet local or unique needs that are just outside the core curriculum but yet represent either evolving fields of study or interest by students. The process that we undertake here does happen under my office. We reach out to all principals of high schools. We ask, how's it going? What do you think? What do you want? And this list represents what they have come back with to say, we need to continue this. We want to be able to offer this, knowing that it also will be dependent on interest and enrollment. So they have said, we want these available to our kids. We want this in our course catalog, but it does not mean that all of these are going to be offered across Sturgeon next year. However, we cannot offer them without the board's review and approval. So with the motion, you'll also see small course outlines that is actually provided by Alberta Education. It is their published course outline so that we can understand them better. Wanted to clarify that most of these are returning, but when I look at the way I've phrased this here, first approved year, this becomes a memo of record, and Alberta Ed has asked that to be on here, so I understand why we put it on here because it clearly shows. And the last year approved also is actually set by the course expiration date. It's not something we decide that it should expire in the 28th year or the 29th. That is also set by Alberta Ed. But most of these courses are actually in our schools now. So the first approval is not first time within Sturgeon. It's a memo of record that says if you were to approve this, this would be the first year of record of approval, and that would be the last year of expiry. Just wanted to explain that because I know when I looked at it, I was like, these aren't all that new. And then I remembered that is how that they asked us to do it. So prepared to take questions about locally developed courses.
Questions for clarification? Trustee Murray Elliott?
First, a comment. I love that we are offering these great different courses that are providing a huge amount of choice to our students. Specific questions have to do with the mental health literacy and the social emotional well-being classes. So I just want, just for clarification, what I'm reading there is that this is for each individual to kind of learn and reflect on their own social emotional and their own mental, or is it more of a external focus?
Yes. Deputy Superintendent.
It is actually a course that helps create an understanding for approaches to and context of what is mental health. We all have it. How do we address it? It is not intended to be a therapeutic course or in any way stepping into a mental health practitioner role. But the school that asked for this said, actually, we do have a constructive role helping young people understand mental health. And if there is supports that they might need, we can connect them, of course, to our counseling services or to external services. But it is not a therapeutic course. It is to understand.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
And just to follow up, I see the workplace essential skills. Love seeing that. That's what our community asked for when we had community engagement. And I think these are all awesome. So thank you.
Trustee Buga?
Thank you. I don't know if it's a question, more of a comment. I agree. I think these programs are really responsive to what we've been seeing in our data. We've been seeing some of the gaps in students, whether we're talking to community engagement, we're talking to parents, we're seeing them. And I feel like these are addressing a lot of that. I know that they can't all run because they can't all run, but I'm excited to see some of them run. And especially with at the Redwater grad, out of the students that were graduating, there was actually a significant amount that were moving towards the social work, like going into education, into social work, and what that might look like, and that opportunity for them to see some of the ways they can support their community and in different ways. I think that's really critical. So I look forward to seeing these roll out. I hope to see more courses going to that 30 level. I know that in our high schools, a lot of times you get in that 15 and see where the interest lies, but it's really nice to see them be able to progress to that 30 level to get those diploma credits at a 30 level option, or CTF, or however that's defined in legislation. But I really like that idea, especially with my own experience is with that media and film arts, and really engaging into what filmmaking can look like into that 30 level and getting some in-depth I think students are ready to really dig in and, you know, having options that they want to participate in will really help with that engagement and encouraging our students to participate all the way up to the end of high school. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have two questions, just for clarification, as this is a public board meeting. So they're locally developed. Can you speak to who developed them? Where did these come from? And what, if any, associated cost is there?
Each approved locally developed course has to be developed by an approved school division. And that then there is a whole process where internally they have their own, but then they submit to the government. And so even though the government didn't dictate this curricula, they do have an editorial process and an approval process before we can even go after, seek, or find these courses. I mean, sometimes we hear about a division that is currently developing, but we can't bring it to you unless it has been approved by Alberta Education as available and rigorous for high school education. There is no direct cost for accessing the curricula and the information regarding the course. There would just be internal costs that we would have to bear for any course that we were to offer with students.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions for clarification from my online trustees? Okay, can I ask for a motion, please? Trustee Murray Elliott?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the following locally developed courses as courses of study within Sturgeon Public School Division from September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2026. September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028, and September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2029. List as in the package.
Would anybody like an opportunity to speak to the motion? Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I will speak in favor of this motion. I just want to say it's great to see the vast breadth of course offerings for students and the impressive innovation with the course offerings for our students and the record keeping that we have of it.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, I will call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the following locally developed courses as courses of study within Sturgeon Public School Division from September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2026, September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2028, and September 1st, 2025 to August 31st, 2029. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 7.5 Policy 215 Organization Chart. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. So all the background when the policy was reviewed, et cetera, is all there for you as a board. And again, this is just a recommendation coming from admin looking at the GTEC model to support the board is the recommendation is for this policy to move to an administrative procedure.
Questions for clarification? Trustee Pequin?
But the admin procedure is not in the books. I don't know what the wording is right now. If this is rescinded, it becomes an admin procedure this afternoon, tomorrow, next month, a year from now.
Superintendent Warren?
Well, we would draft it and move it over. So we move it over as an AP if the board wants to keep it as a policy, it stays. Otherwise, it gets shifted to an AP. The current org chart will stay as is. So we will shift it. If it gets approved today, it would be shifted to an AP. The org chart would be the current one. And then we're working on course because that's the current one that's there. And then we will update it, but it'll be brought back as information to the board.
Any other questions for clarification? Can I ask for a motion at this time? Trustee Bucca?
I move that the Board of Trustees rescind Policy 215 Organization Chart and direct administration to manage the organizational structure of the division through an administrative procedure.
All right, I'm going to ask Trustees, if there's anybody who would like to speak to the motion. Trustee Buga?
I'll speak in favor of this motion as we've been going through all of our policies similar to the ones that were rescinded at the last public board meeting. Removal of living in a policy does not in any way diminish the importance of these structures within our division. It is best served for our public to have policies that are easy to understand. The organization chart does not sit as a board directive, and as an administrative procedure, as well as sitting in our handbook, we will be updated on a regular basis to see if anything changes, and I feel like that's where it belongs.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
Really torn on this one. I'll probably vote against it. And the reason being, and I mean, the board, we have discussed this over and over, and it's going to be captured in an AP and it's captured in other policies. Well, yes and no, because if we do rescind this, what we're losing here, my concern is we're losing board oversight over the organization chart. So is that a problem? Well, maybe not for this board, because if you have a great relationship with your superintendent and if there is good communication going back and forth, it might not be a problem. However, down the road, if there is a different board and or a different superintendent and they don't have a good communication relationship, it might, it might be a little bit different. So I believe for those reasons, I am going to vote against this motion.
It's Joe here too.
Trustee Dwyer?
I'm just going to echo what Trish said. I have the same.
All right. Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Board Chair. I am voting in favor of this motion. As you can see through the paperwork of the motion, that there was a thorough review. There was a question that came up at the public board meeting in March. We had 4 subsequent meetings about this policy. There's been no new changes or information brought forward to change the policy or move any of the information into a different policy. So therefore, moving it to an AP where it belongs is what I believe needs to happen, and will recommend the rescinding of this policy.
Trustee Peckman, would you like an opportunity? I'm also going to vote in favor of the motion, primarily for 2 reasons. One, leaving it in policy means that any change to the org chart, i.e. An associate moving to a directorship or the removal of a position on the org chart, would be the purview of the board, and per the Ed Act and policies existing elsewhere in our structure, those decisions are left to the superintendent of schools. So day-to-day operations and management of the division is that their purview. That's the first part. The second part is changes to the APs are always brought to the board as information. So it will never be that changes will occur without the board's knowledge. So for those reasons, I believe that it is appropriate to rescind this. So I will now call the question that the Board of Trustees rescind policy 215, organization chart, and direct administration to manage the organizational structure of the division through an administrative procedure. All in favor? 4 in favor, all against?
Yes, against.
2 against. The motion is carried. 7.6, Policy 800, Religious Education and Instruction. Superintendent Warren?
Thank you, Chair. I can turn it over also to somebody from the policy committee. As discussed, it's got the outline. This is another policy that has been brought forward by administration, and the recommendation is to rescind, and that we would be putting this into an AP. Again, just as Trustee Peckman had already asked, if a policy stays a policy, then we would not be moving it into an administrative procedure. And so right now this is a policy, but the recommendation is to rescind it. And again, all the reasons for the recommendation are provided in the package.
Questions for clarification? All right, can I have a motion, please? Trustee Peckman?
I move that the Board of Trustees rescind policy 800, religious education and instruction.
I'm going to go around the table on this one. Trustee Murray Elliott, would you like to speak for or against?
Sure. I speak for this motion because from personal experience, having gone through some changes in one of my schools, I feel that things are properly captured and that people do have opportunities to obtain what they require for religious education and instruction without having this policy.
Trustee Peckman?
I speak for this motion. It's captured in the Ed Act. Part of the problem with policies is when the Education Act changes a word, we are now not in scope with the Education Act, which is our overarching legislation. So because it is captured in the Education Act, it is very clear in there what we can and what we can't do, what a parent's rights are, what a student's rights are. A policy makes it redundant because the overarching legislation, we cannot go against the Education Act. It's there. It's clear for the parents who want this to follow the Education Act to get what they want for their students. So I am in favor of rescinding this and making it an admin policy. And that way, if a word changes in the Ed Act, we don't have to bring it back. It can just be changed in the admin procedure.
Trustee Buga?
I speak in favor of this motion. Reading through the policy, it is extremely prescriptive. It is a procedure. Everything in there is the principal shall, and that is not a policy. That is an administrative procedure. It's captured in other places. And I think that our policy, when we speak about being welcoming, inclusive, caring schools, we have a specific part in there that captures religion, that captures cultural education. I believe that this is by no means reducing the division's ability to support students in all ways, including spiritually. I believe that we have that captured in other places, and this has too much opportunity to contradict the Education Act. I don't think it belongs in our policies. So I'm happy to rescind it and make sure that it continues to be captured in other spaces.
Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I will speak in favor of this as well. Again, going back to the Education Act, which is law, therefore we must follow. And it's clear, it stated the process. If a parent requests any kind of religious programming or instruction, administration will work with the school and the parents to bring this request to fruition. I don't think it's place for the board. It is redundant because it is in the Education Act. And no further information had been brought forward from the public board meeting in March to either the need to keep it as a policy or put it into a different area. I think it's captured in other policies, welcoming safe and inclusive environments. Therefore, we don't need to keep this as a policy, and it will be fine as an AP.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, I'm going to speak against this, and there's some history here that we're forgetting. And in my community feels very strongly about this one, that this be provided within the school and the community. I wasn't around when the school was first built, but back then it was agreed to as a community and a school division that they would continue the Catholic religious classes within that school. And this policy, I believe, I'm guessing, was built for that. My community feels very strongly about this policy, and I think there's a big difference between shall and will. I think the policy basically dictates that it does happen in that school. It's not up for debate, and this opens it up for that and decisions that are made against what the community feels should happen in the school and the community. So, and I also want to mention that this was defeated, and we went through a process here that it's back on. But it's to me, there was a promise made to the community. This is going against it. I keep hearing that it's taken care of in the Alberta Education, and yeah, it's will to converse about it, and decisions will be made from that. The policy basically says shall, and it will continue. And I think that's two different things. And I'm disappointed that our board is not seeing that as the past. So, anyways, I'll be voting against it.
All right, I'm voting in favor. To Trustee Dwyer's point, we had a lengthy parliamentary opinion obtained at the board's expense to clarify that this is a renewal and well within the rights and procedures of the board to bring it forward again. Secondly, the process is clear and rigorous in the Ed Act that any parent or group of parents wishing for religious instruction, and that includes not just Catholic religious instruction, it could be Islamic, it could be Jewish, or any other religious instruction. It is incumbent upon the boards to entertain such requests. And the process is outlined in the Ed Act clearly. Given our current government's love of choice, I don't foresee it going anywhere. So the process is there, and it's incumbent upon trustees to assist the citizens of our ward to understand that process and assist with our groups, our parent groups' desires to bring it forward. We also build policy for the division as a whole, not schools. So when you become a trustee, you're elected by your ward, but as soon as you sit at this table, you are then a trustee for the division. And I think that as a trustee for the division, this is the right steps to take. So I speak in favor. And now that everybody's had the opportunity to speak, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees rescind Policy 800, Religious Education and Instruction. All in favor? 5 in favor, all opposed.
Opposed.
1 opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. 7.7 Board Policy Renumbering and Summer Update. Superintendent Warren?
Thank you, Chair. This motion, it is a board motion, and the motion, it's not to change any wording in any policy. It is that we need to update the numbering so that the website is clear, because right now we're living in two different worlds. The board did agree to adopt the GTEC model. Previous board, as Trustee Pequin spoke about, there was a policy rewrite way back when, gone through it multiple times. So there would be no changes to any content of policies. This is simply so that the summer work can be to get the actual numbering updated on the website, and to make sure because we'd have to go through all of our APs now and actually change the references to which policies. So that is what this is about. It is about the actual formatting and numbering of policies. There would not be any content change.
Questions for clarification from the board? Trustee Pequin.
It's not a question. To be clear, board policy can only be passed by the board. By changing the numberings, no words will be changed. We will not make a at. It will stay the exact same, except for policy 235 will now become policy 17, I think it's going to be. As a trustee who, when I ran a long time ago, I read through all the board policies because as a trustee, what we are responsible for is policy. Most other boards across Alberta have gone to the GTEC model. So when we are trying to compare what our board says and what other boards say, this is just moving it into alignment. They're kind of the same headings, the same numbering, but it's Sturgeon's policy. So I think it makes it easier for anybody who's going to be running in this upcoming election in October. Also, in keeping that with that, as the chair of the policy committee, at every policy committee, we have had the opportunity to speak about some of these policies that have been rescinded and some of these policies that have stayed. The GTEC model allows for us to keep those policies that are near and dear to Sturgeon and not necessarily other boards, and has a place for them. Personally speaking, my big policy is the inclement weather policy that no real other boards have, but it means a lot to me and to this board, so we have kept it. So the GTEC model does allow that flexibility to keep policies that Sturgeon wants to keep. Sorry, I might have
Spoken for the motion.
spoken for the motion there.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions for clarification? All right, can I ask for the motion, please? Trustee Pequin?
I might as well do that too. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the renumbering and reformatting of board policies under the GTEC model to be completed and posted online over the summer of 2025.
Would any trustee like an opportunity to speak to the motion? Trustee Murray Elliott.
Well, I speak for this motion. I am all for simplifying and making our policies more accessible to everybody, including the public. Just a note of caution, though, to the board that we do not, as we've heard in the past, push through policies just to try to get to the GTEC model. I've recently heard a trustee say on the two contentious ones that we've just passed that there were no other options put forward, but I'm just a little bit confused as to who would have been responsible for putting forward those options. So anyways, I speak for this motion, just with some caution.
Would anybody else like an opportunity to speak to it? Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I will speak for this motion, following through with renumbering so that we're not living in two systems will be nice. And once we get through all of the policies with the date in August, I think that will help too.
Trustee Buca?
I'll speak in favor of this as well. And just for clarification, I don't know that we have anybody who may be running, but maybe they'll watch this video at some point and want to know how our policies work. I like this because in our work plan and the work that we're doing as a board, the next board will be reviewing two policies at least every single month, which gives them opportunity to have that input. I know that over the last 4 years, I have suggested wording suggestions and changes. I have suggested additions to policies and I brought it to committee and they have been approved. So I think as trustees, these are ours, and I do feel that I have had significant input into them, and look forward to having the concise number of policies that it can be moved through every single year, and no policies get stagnant and sit there for 5 years without anybody seeing them. So I think this is going to be a really positive move, and the boards going forward will have an easier time of it.
Trustee Dwyer, would you like an opportunity?
No, I'm good.
All right, then I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the renumbering and reformatting of board policies under the GTEC model to be completed and posted online over the summer of 2025. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. And administrative reports. 8.1 off-campus education report 2024-2025, Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. This is an annual report that's brought to you. We're very excited about this. I will be turning it over to the deputy and to our division principal.
Thank you, Chair and Superintendent. I also will be turning it very quickly over to Dan Stevens, Division Principal. He works very closely with off-campus coordinators and is much closer to this work and can speak more accurately to its contents. So with that, I'd like to turn over to Dan Stevens.
Good morning. Just a couple highlights from the reports that you saw there from our 3 different campuses. Continued increase in all areas, whether it's off campus or whether it's work experience, registered apprenticeship, or a green certificate. They've all increased significantly. This increase allows more of our students to access the credits they need to more readily achieve high school graduation, which is the goal. And a lot of our students are using those credits towards high school graduation, which is excellent. The other thing that's in the report that I'd like to highlight, a couple things, I guess, more is the dual credit opportunities that we've offered this year for our students, that have worked with our off-campus programming kind of side by side with that. We've had a number of students take welding from both Redwater and Sturgeon Composite High School. We had offered our heavy equipment tech program, where we've had students again from both Redwater and Sturgeon Composite are so interested in that. And the students that have also achieved RAP credits and off-campus work experience credits in those areas as well, based on that knowledge that they've gained. Some goals for continued improvement in these is a continued uptick in our green certificate numbers. We had one success story in the report there from a Redwater school where a student completed their 16 credits, in kind of a year sooner than most do. So that's great. And it's the green certificate. It's a lot of commitment. It's 16 credits to complete it all. And there's the testing that takes place off-site. You got to go to oftentimes Vermilion to get that testing done, or hopefully it works into your schedule and they come to the area to do the testing. So to have more students complete that would be something we search for in the future, and just continued connections with industry and workplaces in our area. We've got people in Redwater doing an amazing job connecting with our businesses, and people at Sturgeon Comp connecting with county businesses, and we look to keep that going forward and continue that. But that's a report, and I'll take any questions if you have.
Trustee Pecklin.
I don't have any questions. I have a few comments. First of all, shout out to all of the staff who makes this possible. And realizing our kids are working during the summer anyway, so why not get some high school credits for it? Maybe lighten up their high school load. B, to all of the businesses listed here and all of the ones who aren't listed, thank you for taking our students and doing the work experience and doing the RAP programming and putting the time and putting the commitment in, because without these businesses, this isn't possible for our students. And we are moving to a more careers-minded high school with this current government. So without these businesses and without the staff to find these businesses, this isn't possible. So to all of them that are listed, just a huge thank you on behalf of the board for taking our students. And like I said, and realizing that our kids work during summer. So if you can earn 15 credits, great.
Trustee Buga?
I guess it is a question. I didn't realize that students could take part and earn credits in our community volunteer programs at the schools. Can you tell me more about what that looks like and who that's targeted for?
Yeah, it's for students, most actually the target, it's all of our students, but and the number of students that take advantage of it is those attaining their Keeney certificate. So they need to have work experience credits as part of that goal. And so transportation is an issue sometimes for our students. So we offer volunteer opportunities within the school where they are supervised and, have a work plan. They show up, they are, helping teachers sort future assignments or, getting borders ready, like just kind of connecting with a staff member in the school and helping them with that. They help in the cafeteria, they help in the foods program, they help sweep the shop. So they're just doing different volunteer acts within the school to achieve those credits. They need 125 hours worth. So it kind of takes them the whole year and they get it done within the school.
Trustee Marie Elliott?
Thank you, Dan. This is so encouraging and I appreciate all the work that you and your team are doing. I see it. You are out there in the community working hard and interacting with our businesses and things like that. So it shows in these numbers and so that I really appreciate that. I also really appreciate that you have added into this report the challenges that this program is facing. And I see that most of these challenges are related to one of our high schools. And so I just want to make sure that in the name of equitable education and equitable opportunities, that our high school students are given the very best options that they possibly can. So I believe they can, but I just want to make sure that students from each high school can take advantage of opportunities from the other high school.
Yeah, and both, whether they're off-campus wrap or experience, there's a coordinator at each school that is looking after those and connecting with community partners to provide those opportunities for both. Our dual credit opportunities have been made available to both, whether it was heavy equipment tech, welding, our culinary arts, which we started in Redwater this year, where we had some initial students come from the comp to Redwater. So there is a good networking opportunity between both high schools, synergy to connect and make sure everybody has opportunities. And we even discussed that as an off-campus team. It's always at the front of our mind, how can we make it available to both, which is good. And, whether it's in a sturgeon comp, they want to get Redwater students involved and vice versa. So it's a good team that we have.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that. I think that the stakeholder engagements that we do and engaging our local businesses, it's critical. That's something that the board can do to support and encourage and bolster our off-campus education throughout the year. And I think that as a board of trustees, that's the responsibility is partly ours as well. So continuing to have stakeholder engagements with our local businesses is critical. So thank you for your report. All right, seeing no more questions, I will move to 8.2, the Fine Arts Report 2024-2025.
Thank you, Board Chair. This report came out of interest from the board. This is the second year we've done this report, and so it was from the request of the board. So I will turn it over again to the deputy and to the division principal to talk about our fine arts programming.
Thank you. In a similar pattern, our division principal, Dan Stevens, has been working more closely with the principals and also the leaders within this fine arts, both artistic, what I mean is medium leaders and musical leaders. And I'll really should stop talking and turn it over to Dan Stevens to highlight his report.
So a few highlights from this one. The audio engineering course that started up this year at Sturgeon Composite High School has been a tremendous success. So those of you not familiar with it, it's basically just making music with a computer and combine it to different mediums and visual works of art. So think about like kind of soundtracks in movies, those sounds that go on the backgrounds. It's those types of things. And Kyle Swenson at the comp has done an excellent job promoting that and garnering interest. And it's heavily subscribed next year. I think we've got 30 that are signed up again for it next year. The other thing highlight is the drumline provincials that we hosted at Sturgeon Composite High School this year in combination with the Sturgeon Strides event was fantastic. A number of schools from across the province showcasing the hard work that they do throughout the year practicing their drumline. Sturgeon Composite was very successful at this competition. They finished first in both of the categories that there are. And just kind of recalling the categories, it's kind of, I think, just different sizes of drum lines that were there. The other highlights, just the number of Christmas concerts, plays, drama productions that are K-9 schools participated in this year was incredible. Once again, it's a source of pride for the schools, and to see those students really get involved in something that they can be a part of, because sometimes these aren't students that maybe are involved in athletics or involved in other aspects of the school. This is their piece and their place to feel connected. And so there was a number of opportunities through our division again this year, allowing those students to be involved in the school. And then kind of culminated at the end of the year with our Sturgeon Night of music at the Windspear, which was another success, and I gave another showcase opportunity for our schools to showcase all they've done this year. So I'll turn it over for questions or comments.
Yes, absolutely. Superintendent Warren?
I would just like to add to, I know a couple of you are online, so you're not here, but as we change out after our fine art show every year, then they come in and they change our art out. So outside my office, outside the board office, it's all been changed out. And this beautiful wall right across from us here, we're going to have 7 frames where it's going to be the same thing. So the board, as per board request, you will also have art in this room, and it'll get changed out again every year after the fine art showcase that happens.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Trustee Buga.
Thank you. I know that pulling together reports it takes time and it takes effort, and it really is appreciated. We see snippets here and there from each of our schools at different times of years, but it's really nice to see it it gets pulled together along with the curriculum and not just the showcase of it. So I appreciate this report that it's coming through. I would like to note our junior highs have such fantastic public plays, and it's a huge part of the community. I don't know if our high schools get the same opportunity, or if their drama programs do those kind of showcase events, or if there's opportunity to make those available to public. I know that we as trustees end up seeing a lot of artwork and we see a lot of performances, but not so much the drama aspect. So just curious if that continues, or if there's opportunities. I know they do the festival circuits and some competitions, but maybe not so much public events. So that would be great, just to showcase our drama program going into the high schools as well.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Yeah, you're right. At the end there, they do participate in the one act play festivals, and successful ones move on to provincials for that stream. But definitely good feedback to take back to the schools, and maybe to provide some public opportunities for engagement with those programs. Thank you.
Trustee Pequin?
My comment's not so much about this specific report, but about today. Like when we have flight school, and then we have all of the rap programs and the work experience, and now the fine arts. Like, man, I'm jealous. I'm 30 years too old to be in high school. So it's just like, that was not an option. And I'm not that old, but that was not an option when I went to high school. So it's just, today in general, it's just like a yay, look at the opportunities our students have. So good job, us.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
Well, and further to that, we get to do the next best thing, which is attending all of these wonderful performances. So grateful that we're invited as trustees to witness them. I thought I saw somewhere that the play that we saw recently won an award at the One Act Play competition or whatever it was in, but I can't remember what that was all about. So I do actually have a question on this. When I was going through this and I saw art 10, 20, 30, which I think I know what that is, and then I saw art 11, 21, 31. So I did a little investigating on the government website. So correct me, this is my understanding. I may be way off base, but it sounds like 10, 20, and 30 is about creating art. And the other stream 11, 21, 31 is more about the analyzing and appreciating and like is
the 11, 21, 31 stream is definitely more abstract or kind of, you're not just creating, it's a higher level thinking for those 31 level courses. And it is digging into the time period of it, why it was created, what would the artist be thinking, rather than just creating it yourself. So, and there used to be, there's some other 31 courses, off the top of my head, I can't remember all the other ones, but that are just the higher level thinking that is required for those courses. Yeah, a little more advanced.
I would just like to reiterate my gratitude for the report. Sitting at this table for the last 8 years, we spend a copious amount of time focusing on academics, which are, don't get me wrong, critically important. But there was a point in time where one of our high schools was known for, just being hands-on and gearheads and things like that. And I think over the past, 4 or 5 years, I've seen a significant shift. Yes, we do wrap and hands-on work extremely well. I don't think that will ever change, but the shift to, higher academics, towards the fine arts has been significant. I sincerely appreciate that. I believe it gives our students a more well-rounded education and provides so many more opportunities. So this has probably always been happening in the background to some extent, but bringing it forward to the board in this context is certainly appreciated. So thank you very much.
Just a comment, if I might, just on your last words there. Yeah, we have shifted that narrative, and but it's also been, not just a total 180. We've still kept the good things that we did before, and we've become a very envious school in the region. We are hosting our CTS conference there next year, so a number of students a number of teachers from across the region will be able to come and check out our spaces. We did a little tour to kind of just a preamble before the conference, and blown away by the facilities that we had, whether they were for CTS, whether they were for drama, music, whatever it might be. And I'm in this Capital Region Collegiate Committee as well. And, we're becoming envious of those schools that maybe are known for their academics because they don't have the access to the facilities that we do. And, it's just kind of nice to be in that position that, schools are wanting to be more like us, which is good to hear, for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was being grateful for. The fact that we can and are doing that, and that we have a path forward to continue. So yes, thank you so much. Moving on to 8.3, quarterly financial report and forecast, June 2025. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Board Chair. I will turn this over to the Associate Superintendent of Corporate Services and to the Executive Director.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'm going to hand it over to the Executive Director.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm just going to quickly speak to the report that's in front of you, just at a super high level, but entertain questions and if anyone has anything specific that they want to get into. Essentially, we are at, the way I would look at this is we are at 75% of the year, but we're at 90% of the operational school year.
Questions from the board? Trustee Murray Elliott.
I find this super exciting.
Thank you.
I think it's good. We're on track, it looks like, considering we're 90% operational. So, but just quick question, if we could just get a little reminder, I'm thinking there might even be a little bit of money left over at the end because we are almost at the end, even though a lot of the expenses do carry forward through the summer as well. What happens to any excess funds at the end of the year?
Really good question. Thank you. So it kind of depends by program, but typically as an overall divisional position, those tend to then go into reserves. And when I say by program, there are some programs that are targeted grants. And so those sit in deferred revenue then, or are deferred not recognized into revenue. We only recognize enough of revenue to cover expenses. And so, but the rest will go into reserves.
Trustee Pequin.
I love budgets. So spring budget, we were predicting a $1.2 million deficit this year. And
Yep.
now as we are going through in our expenses and revenues, by the end of this year, we will have a surplus. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, and so a slight surplus of about 57,000.
Right now?
What we forecasted, yeah, as of March 31st or May 31, sorry.
So then the prediction as to like when we wrap up the school year is still going to be that 57,000?
At May 31st, yes. And so it'll depend now what happens between now and the end of August.
Okay.
Trustee Gibbons?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the finance team. Thank you. This is our first full school year together. We survived. You did it. You did an awesome job. I know it's been a pretty demanding year, and I appreciate that. So I hope you can get some good work-life balance in the future.
Thank you. I'm kind of remiss. I meant to start off by this quarter report is really a huge thanks to our schools, to our departments, and especially to our finance team. We've got a really good team in behind us that really supports these pieces. And they're the kind of behind the scenes no one ever sees, but they do a lot of great stuff. And without them, this wouldn't really be possible. So really a huge thanks goes to them and to our schools. They do a tremendous amount with this as well. So thank you.
Trustee Buga?
Okay. I apologize in advance for this, but Trustee Pequin's question now has me questioning what I thought was happening too. So for that bottom line, the operating deficit, we had budgeted a deficit. That was the plan. Where we're sitting right now, is that above where we had budgeted? Like compared to where we budgeted, not compared to zero, because we budgeted here and now we're moving that, like that's our line. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in here. So yeah, we budgeted $1.2 million deficit. And just because of mostly the labor action, some other funds we came into with some legal settlements and things like that has shifted to us posting approximately a surplus of $57,000 for the end of the year. So when we get the financial statements, we will see that, and that will go into reserves to pay for some of that QP settlement in the future years, as well as anything else that we as the board decides through the process of year end and our reserve allocation and things like that.
Trustee Buga, follow-up?
Quick follow-up. Does that affect, I know that officially we are not allowed to have a deficit budget as per the government. We have to ask for special permission. And I know that our upcoming budget, we have again, are asking for a deficit budget going forward. Does that affect how the government, I know, the goal is always to be at your budget, like to be where you expect to be. Is that going to affect anything while we're asking for another deficit budget going forward if we come out of this in a different position?
No, it won't. So generally, when we talk about not being able to post a deficit budget, they mean like a total deficit budget. I mean, your reserves can't go into deficit. It is common for, no, I shouldn't say common, but divisions do post deficit budgets. One thing that we haven't heard back on is if there'll be any clawback of those funds that from the labor action as well too. We sent that information in, we haven't heard anything. So, whether we decide to put some of that money away in case that does happen, to accommodate that as well too is a potential option, but yeah.
Trustee Pequin?
So the 966 number, what is that? So the year-to-date annual operating surplus deficit. So we have the Q3 forecast and then the year-to-date as of May 31st.
So that is like currently as of May 31st, when we take our revenues and expenses, that is what's left. And some of that is because some of our expenses happen over the summer, especially like IMR. So if you look at our IMR plan, close to $1 million in spending and things like that. Sorry, IMR and CMR and things like that. But yeah, there's just that piece. And then, some of our expenses continue over summer. Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
So I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude to the finance department. This is the first full year we've been together, and the formats have remained consistent, and we've been able to track things through the quarters. When it comes to budgeting, it's very easy to get sucked into the operations of the division, which is not the spot for trustees to be. This has provided a nice way for me anyways to track changes and identify anomalies. Obviously, when there's anomalies, we need to dig a little deeper, but this format has worked really well for me to look at trends, which frankly, that's what we do. We should be tracking our trends. So I really, really like this format going forward. Thanks. Yes.
You know, I just to add to that a little bit, when I look at these things, something that really stands out to me, especially when you look at the monthlies, how we're seeing more consistency from month to month than in the past, especially, in our first year. And it highlights that our processes and procedures are, becoming a little bit better in terms of our tracking and monitoring and things like that. It's not perfect. I would say there's still work to be done, but when I look at this, everything I see in there, I can explain right off the hand that would be a big shift, and everything else is seeming to come through at a consistent pattern. So that's something to highlight, I think.
All right, thank you. Moving to 8.4, Stakeholder Engagement Summary 2024-2025. Superintendent Warren?
Thank you, Chair. None of this is new to the board, and this has already been provided, but we decided to put all of the stakeholder engagement for the year into one report to be public facing for the public. I'm going to turn it over to the deputy, but again, it is our job to take our stakeholder feedback, and so it is in multiple places, but it's all together in one public facing, and I will turn it over to Mr. Conrad.
Thank you, Superintendent and Chair. As just discussed, none of this information should be new, but some of it has been like the key feedback that we get from our stakeholders does go into our annual education results report, which you see every year in November and is on our website. And then based on that feedback, and it gets captured and shared and quoted in our education plan, which you also just saw. So those are our primary documents, great things to share, things to look at, and the public has seen both of those. But when we did share the early summary of themes for the local stakeholder outside of the education plan, and also when we shared the themes of the business community engagement report, it was in public in the CAL, but it wasn't in public as it is here with a public board meeting. So we wanted to bring that forward as well. There was a slight shift. We also wanted to capture that for our stakeholders and for yourselves and the board. But this just represents a year of engagement and how we've presented and used the information. Prepared to take questions.
Questions, comments from the board? Trustee Murray Elliott.
Just thank you to Jonathan and his team and everyone in the division, because I think it is important to get stakeholder feedback. And I like seeing how this feedback is actually appearing in new courses that are being offered at our schools and things like that. So yes, it shows how valuable it is. So good work.
Thank you very much for that. Trustee Buga?
Sorry, one very quick comment also. I appreciate the way, especially having this public, is that it is highlighting what we've done, what we're hearing, but also the acknowledgement of where we have growth, where we have challenges, where we see gaps, because that's critical in developing those plans to accommodate them. So I appreciate that we are sharing this in a public board meeting in a front-facing way, so that everybody knows where we're going, what we're seeing, and if the teachers or the stakeholders didn't necessarily attend these events, they can see that their thoughts are being reflected from other places as well, and don't feel like their voice isn't being heard. And also to let them know that there are opportunities to actually show up and be part of it too. So I think that there's multifaceted reasons why this is a really important report. So I appreciate it being here today.
Okay, I see that there is a need for a 5-minute bio break. We are going to pause for 5 minutes only. Now.
Irene had to go.
All right, thank you and welcome back. I see that we don't have Trustee Gibbons, but I'm sure she'll be back in as quickly as possible. We will move on to 8.5 Communications Report, May and June 2025. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. And here, this is your monthly communications report, and I will turn it over to the deputy.
Thank you for your information. Our monthly report capturing some of the work that communications is doing to support schools. A large part the last month has been very direct support to schools to get some of the plans for next year, to get supply lists, to get code of conducts, to get important dates like Meet the Teacher or such on websites. As our families, this is one of those times where they check it now or they check it in summer, and it's important to have it there. Also proud of the work to celebrate the diversity within our schools and our communities as we celebrated Pride Week in our schools. Also not captured as much here, but will be highlighted, I think, in the next report. We see there are many opportunities. I know Trustee Buga highlighted that it is National Indigenous Peoples Day coming up on the 21st, but we throughout this month celebrate Indigenous communities and heritage and understanding, and as we capture those events as we can, we want to celebrate them with our communities as well. Collegiate programming is a celebration. Some extra tours around Guthrie and the Gal has been fun. I'm assuming you all are subscribed to the Sturgeon Public Scoop. And if not, and if you're listening online, please do so. I think it's a nice way to get a pulse of what's happening around the division. Congrats, of course, as we've heard already today, to our graduates. Some celebrations have had, some will be coming, but it is in the season to celebrate the hard work and accomplishments of our graduates from our schools. Prepared to take any questions to the report.
Trustee Buga.
I would just like to draw everybody's attention to that collegiate program section of our website now. That term and the understanding of what collegiate means was something that was new to me in the last year or two as the government started talking about it and really figuring out what that meant as a public school division to have collegiate programming. So I'm really happy that there's now a section of our website where we can direct parents to say, look at the opportunities. This is new. This is different. You want choice in education? Come see it. And having that access, I find our website is really well laid out. There is a ton of information on it. So sometimes you have to click around a little bit because there is a lot, but it is all there. And I really appreciate that resource. So if nobody's clicked on those links, it's right there in the report and it'll take you there and really highlights what we're doing. So thank you for that.
Seeing no other questions or comments, we will move on to 8.6 Superintendent Report.
Thank you, Chair. As provided monthly, and I'm prepared to take questions. This is my superintendent report.
Trustee Buga.
I click a lot of links because I really appreciate them being there. So again, I just wanted to note the trustee election 2025 and the trustee election handbook. That's actually the Sturgeon version of it. There's an Alberta School Board Association link on there, but as well as our own. Great, great resources. We can easily share our information with our communities and encourage democracy coming up here going into the election. I love this report to see what's going on. And I really like links. Thanks.
I actually would have a comment and a question. Comment is I am really grateful to the superintendent for attending the 2 provincial conferences with us this spring. Yeah, the SGMs. spring general meetings. I think it is critically important for trustees and the superintendent to attend those together. I've said this before, so I feel like I'm up on my soapbox again, but when trustees and the superintendent can attend those events together, it contributes to a shared understanding, not just of our division, but of the province. We had several opportunities to speak to the Minister of Education, and I simply don't think that it would have been as fruitful had we not had Superintendent Warren with us. So that's my comment. And I've forgotten my question, so I guess I will leave it at that. Seeing no other hands, we will move to admin procedure 540 communication plan for Alexander First Nation. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Just as you review your policies, we review our APs, and when there's a need for something and things to come forward, and I will turn this over because this AP falls under the Deputy Superintendent, so I will let him speak to it.
Thank you. And I don't know the point of procedure here, but between 8.7 and 8.11, each of these are coming forward from my department as part of our annual review of administrative procedures. And I will speak to, as the board chair directs, all of the changes, but they are just as a superintendent indicated. We look at it as a team. Actually, they're assigned to individuals within the team, and we bring it back together and we see if there's any clarifications to be made. They're not coming forward because of some outside of that natural cycle of review. Specific to 840, we are guided by our educational services agreement that the board and chief of council have signed, but there is a need to call out specifically how communication is going to flow. This is being in an AP, it's clear and very accessible to our administrators and central office supports, which is why we have done this here. And we've added a little conversation, if you see on attendance or I will say attendance, and that actually reflects a broader societal challenge that we're working with in our schools. Attendance has become a challenge in high school for all communities, and this just highlights some of the ways we're working with that. Any questions on 540?
Seeing none, I think you are good to proceed.
Yes, Chair, may I just ask the deputy continues because we did bring each AP because the ones that fall under him. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So then AP or Administrative Procedure 800 or 8.8 on the agenda reflects our commitment to language programming. A small tweak as some places we need to continue to work on encouraging that. So there's a bit of an interest in enrollment statement there, but it does, by having this AP, demonstrate our commitment to having language programs. Questions for 800?
Trustee Buga?
Sometimes I see the titles on our agenda package and sometimes my heart drops a little bit. I'm like, what are we doing with languages? This is important. As I represent the schools that do have the French immersion, and there's always challenges, and enrollment year to year even is very different. So I was happy to see that when I looked at the language programs, it is reinstilling the commitment to language learning, and that the division will continue this programming despite some of the challenges and costs associated. So thank you.
Thank you. Am I to continue then, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay,
please.
continuing then to Administrative Procedure 810. It is also very critical that we communicate to our public, to our community families, how we are achieving on provincial level tests. A small amendment here is because there were a few years where the data wasn't available. That's the only wording change here. Any questions for 810? Hearing none, I'm okay to proceed to Administrative Procedure 855. This actually reflects a change the board already approved through a policy rescinding policy 805, I believe, at last public board meeting. When we did this review, we noticed we needed some language to clearly capture our home education. So if you go down to the very bottom of that, you'll see the language that we wanted to ensure was still here, so we could still follow it as a division. So it reflects no longer having the policy, it is here in AP. Any questions?
Trustee Buga?
Another comment, just that the appreciation that when we do make choices at the board level with the assumption and the ask that things get captured in different places, I appreciate this coming back to us to make sure that it did, because we can then see that, yes, this aligned with the policy that was rescinded. Everything is captured here. Nothing has fallen off of anybody's plate, and it is still a big part of our division. It just doesn't need to sit in policy all the time. So it's a really great reassurance to see this come back to us so quickly so that we know.
Agreed.
Then I will continue to the last AP my team is bringing forward, which is 865, although I must ask your patience and forgiveness, because I will need to bring this back to the board because we had intended to also bring AP 868 forward, and we team didn't get it done. So I will bring 868 to you, and then because really the only change with this one is to refer to 868, which I did not bring before you. So my apologies. We will have to return this to you. But other than that, there's really no changes in this one. And that's all the APs my team is bringing forward.
Any questions after all of that? Okay. Reports from trustees and standing committees. 9.1, the chair's report. Okay, June is always a very busy month, and the first half and the last half are particularly busy for me, but since the last half hasn't happened quite yet, I would like to comment on the first half. So the highlight for me was the PSBAA conference, the SGM, earlier this month. In particular, I wanted to highlight for the board, anybody who wasn't there, we had an amazing presentation from Emily Milne, PhD Associate Professor, the Department of Sociology of Grant MacEwan University. Her paper is, I think it's now been released, Advancing Educational Equity in Alberta Public Schools. Her presentation was spectacular. She was commenting, the focus was on Indigenous student learning in our province. I was very proud to hear that she had worked with our division several years ago. This is a long time coming report. She had a baby in between. But the highlights that are coming out in this report, I think, should give us all a pause, and hopefully it will encourage the government, who was a partner in this research project, to see the need and the importance for support of all students who get streamed. One of the most interesting comments that she made was, or that she captured in this study, was that by grade 3, teachers can tell you whether or not a student will graduate and move on to post-secondary education. And I was like, mic drop, what? And looking around at fellow trustees and other educators, I was assured that that is actually correct. And I'm like, you know, it just speaks to the need for early intervention, and, you know, that we need to do more now to stop that from happening later. It was really great to hear that, because it came up in discussions with the minister later in the conference. So, yeah, it was an eye-opening presentation. And the second presentation that I found incredibly insightful was by Alan Keller. he's an international speaker on mental health advocate, and I'm not ashamed to say it brought me to tears. And his talk has sat with me since then. So I hope that there's a way that we might be able to engage him within our school division at some point, but I will leave that up to those of you who do such things. So, and then of course we're moving into the best time of the year, the celebrations and the awards. So I'm very much looking forward to that in the coming weeks. Trustee Buga.
Thank you. I'd like to see links to some of those presentations if you've got them, because
We will be getting a copy of the report because we were participants in it. But
fabulous.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing that. Yeah, it's been a really busy month, starting with I went to Calgary for the ASBA Spring General Meeting. Unfortunately, couldn't stay for both. I was really happy. I've been doing, all of the grade 9 farewells and starting the award ceremony season, and did flag raising with the town of Morinville for Pride. But one of my greatest takeaways this month was being able to fill in for another trustee who wasn't able to attend their grade 9 farewell. And I don't know the families in Gibbons well, and I am not part of that community beyond this, but it was just fantastic to be invited in to share that celebration with those families. It's really meaningful, and I feel that as a board, we haven't done enough sharing of all of our communities. I know that we try when we can, but it really is important, and it's great to see the same camaraderie, the same community with a little different feel depending on where you go. So I'm excited. I'm going to be out at Legal next week for their end of year ceremony as well. So to see how things are done in different communities is a great treat for me. So thank you.
And thank you for filling in when and where needed. I know that's been a challenge for the board this month, so just appreciation for that. And since I'm looking at the board, I'm going to move to Trustee Dwyer, since I'm looking right at your initials.
Yeah, been a busy month at Camilla with all the stuff going on and everybody going on, but I don't have a whole bunch to report. I had to go away for a little bit, but I'm back, and I know everything's going good at Camilla. And thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Peckman.
My report was submitted on time. June is great. It's grad season, it's award season, it's fantastic. Last weekend was Redwater grad. So a few of us trustees and the superintendent were there for that, congratulating those students. And yeah, I've done Redwater School Awards and I've got Oka Parks coming up, and June is just a giant highlight of celebrating our success as a division and as students.
Thank you. Trustee Murray Elliott.
Yeah, it's been a great month so far. PSBAA, as Tasha has said. Just a little further on the first speaker there, she was commissioned by the government to do her research, and she soon found out it translated not just to Indigenous students, but to all students. So we're all very hopeful that because the government initiated this research, they will actually listen to the results and appreciate the importance of early interventions and supports. So fingers crossed there. As far as inviting Mr. Keller to the division, please wait till I'm long gone, because I was a blubbering mess.
It wasn't because he was poor. It was because it was a very emotional.
Very good. He was amazing. The Music and Fine Arts Awards night at the Comp was fantastic. The music program has always been strong there, but now that they've started including drama and having their artwork out, it's just simply unbelievable how talented our students are. And it's such an honor to be able to share it with them. I'm going to miss those things so much. So here's another one, school council meeting, which Sturgeon Heights has one in June. Fortunately, it's off-site in a much more fun place than the school. But I want you all to write this down because we've had some things come from Sturgeon Heights recently, and this is another one, and it's called a Gaga Pit. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, and I was hearing little things about this. And so now I can tell you what it means. So this was a junior high student initiative is what got this going. And basically it's an octagonal shaped bunch of boards that are bracketed together. And I think there's sand or something in the bottom, and the kids go in there. Maybe, I don't even know how big it is. And they play dodgeball type of thing. So they're having so much fun that school council is looking at helping them fund 2 more for their playground. And there are schools all over St. Albert that are saying, I hear about this Gaga Pit, tell me more, because they all want to get in on the action. So yeah, that's a really positive thing going on there, and looking forward to seeing how that will grow. For the next ones, they're looking at instead of purchasing the whole thing, they can do it much more reasonably by just purchasing the brackets and then going to Home Depot for the boards. And so there are ways to do it more reasonably priced. I think the first one was in the $3,000 range. And looking at what's coming up, grade 9 farewell at Sturgeon Heights, as well as the awards presentations and our Sturgeon Comp grad. So looking forward to all of those events. And that is my report, which has been submitted.
Thank you very much. Committee of the whole report is available in the package 9.3. Questions, comments regarding it? I think we're good. So we will move to 10.1, Alberta School Boards Association representative. And our rep has not returned yet, so I will pass it to the alternate.
Thank you. Last month, I believe we did get a report from Trustee Gibbons at our committee of the whole meeting, just regarding some of the position statements and the budget that was coming up at the SGM. All of the position statements that were voted on are publicly available on the ASBA website if anybody wants to take a look at that. They do have a Zone 2-3 meeting coming up on Friday that I'm hoping to attend at least half of it. I'm not sure that I can be logged in all day, but I'll be attending virtually on Friday and keep you updated if there's anything interesting happening.
Thank you. And Public School Boards Association of Alberta representative, we will move to the alternate, Trustee Murray Elliott.
I guess we've spoken a little bit about some of the highlights of that. I have not received, they usually put out a summary, which I've not received. So I'm thinking maybe Tasha got it. And if not, eventually all the slides and things do get posted on their website. So we can keep an eye out for that, because there were some amazing presentations and we keep saying to them, how are you going to top this? But they do seem to keep doing that. So
Yeah. One of the, if I could add, we got a 2-hour uninterrupted question and answer with the Minister of Education, which was amazing. It was amazing. Uninterrupted. He just said, ask me whatever you want. So we did. So yeah.
yeah, that was very positive, and it's interesting to see what people know and what people don't know, because some of the questions he was not really aware of our concerns that were even concerns. However, I I don't know if I can share it here, but his fundraising initiative.
Yeah, that's a great idea to share.
So we heard that, I don't know if anyone's aware, but a member of the minister's family was murdered due to domestic violence recently within the last year or two. And so the minister is taking on a fundraising project, which is to, with a group, climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa in January. So at PSBAA, they passed the hat around and were able to get some funds to help support his fundraising program. And overall, it was a really positive interaction with the minister. And I think that's really good because it helps him feel that he can actually listen to our questions and respond. So it was really good.
Wish I could remember the charity that he's supporting, but it's a women and children's shelter in Calgary. Trustee Buca?
Sorry, if I can add, the Jessica Martel Foundation's Break Free Run, it's one of their biggest fundraisers, is happening this Saturday at Cardiff Park, I believe. If anybody wants to sponsor locally as well to support breaking free of domestic violence.
Thank you. Good tie-in right there. Trustee Dwyer, would you like to give us a Rotary report? I'm guessing you have gone to not as many as you would have liked to this month.
Yeah, but it's the Rotary is really busy right now. A lot of youth stuff going on. We're having some guest speakers lately, actually, to talk about youth initiatives and that, which are pretty interesting. But yeah, in the group at the high school is still going strong. They're involved in every time we have an event, they're there, so they're supporting us. So it's great.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks so much. 10.4 chamber meetings. Anybody? 10.5 Community Service Advisory Board. Anyone? All right. Not seeing any unfinished business. Number 12 is comment and question period. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to highlight the changes that came to this section of our agenda last month through policy 235 board operations. We now are asking for the public to provide questions in advance. And that is partly in response to feedback that we've received this year in particular. It's very frustrating, not only to persons asking the questions, but to those who are answering the questions when we can't successfully answer them on the spot in a board meeting. So we are now asking persons directing questions to the board at a regular meeting to do so in writing in advance via Google form. The questions must be submitted by 4 p.m. the day before the public board meeting, and each individual shall be limited to one question and one follow-up question on the response to that question. Again, in an effort to try and provide timely, complete, and accurate answers. So as of this morning, there were no questions submitted. So we're just moving forward now to in camera. And I'm wondering if I could, sorry?
So what if something came up during a meeting that wasn't quite on the agenda, or some piece of information that came forward that wasn't on the agenda? It's pretty hard to ask a question about that if they don't know about it.
Yeah, great question. So if there's a question in the agenda or in the meeting from today, then they can certainly still ask the question, either ask your trustee or through the board chair. Those will always be entertained, but this is just to try and be more, I guess, to try and alleviate some of the frustrations that we've experienced this year. First during the labor action. I know there was a lot of unhappy people that we couldn't answer questions about the labor action. And then, you know, subsequently, so this is a response to that. If there are questions and you haven't had an opportunity to get them in prior to 4 o'clock yesterday, you're always welcome to email your trustee, email the board chair, or email the superintendent. Trustee Maria Elliott?
I like most of that. I really like the encouragement to have questions posted in advance, and that way, yes, they can be answered on the spot, and that kind of closes the loop. I also like the flexibility that you can ask a question not being in advance, but you just cannot expect an answer on the spot if it's not available. So that's great. My concern is, did I hear that we will only entertain one question per viewer? Per person?
I think that's what we voted on last meeting in policy 235. I can see an argument for having more than one. I think that where we run into problems is questions being reiterated from the agenda that were discussed in the package. So by trying to ask people to determine what they really want to know, we might avoid some of that. A constituent can always ask you as many questions as they like. They can ask me as many questions as they like. But if it's been addressed already through the agenda, through the meeting, you know, you may be just referred back to that. That answer the question?
It does, but I think we should perhaps think about that a little bit, and I'm not opposed to maybe thinking about allowing more than one question with maybe a caveat of time limitations, having something already answered in the package, etc. So
Yeah.
I just am really leery of not letting people have their say as well.
I completely agree. Recently, there was questions asked from one board meeting. They were answered, and by and large, most of them came back in a follow-up. So I think the key is to be mindful of time, to be mindful of answers already provided. And in by no way is this meant to limit people's access to information, but it is to try and be concise, be precise, and ask what you really need to know.
Tasha?
Yes, Trustee Dwyer?
I wonder if, you know, no hurry for this, but I wonder if there's a need for a board discussion on this as a whole.
We have had that. That was part of all of the discussion on policy 235 board operations that came to the board throughout this year and was voted on at the last public board meeting.
Okay. I'll have to get myself clear on that one.
Yep, that would be fine. We can probably provide you all of the times it was discussed throughout this year.
Okay.
Seeing no further questions or comments, can I get a motion to move in camera at this time? Trustee Buga, thank you. All right, we're
Can you guys hear me? Hello?